Welcome back to the Sportsbook Draft, where FanDuel's pick is in.
With the first pick in the 2025 Sportsbook Draft, FanDuel selects the Kentucky Derby.
Brilliant pick, as FanDuel becomes the first sportsbook app where you can bet the Derby.
Just a savvy move by a savvy franchise. New customers get a no-sweat first bet on the Kentucky Derby up to $500.
It's like they know each other.
What do you think Rob's saying to him right now?
Probably something about oats.
Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at one of many stakes races on Kentucky Derby Saturday at Churchill Downs. Race 7 is the Grade 2 Twin Spires Turf Sprint, and our preview of this video is presented this week by FanDuel, just as all of our Kentucky Derby coverage is. And FanDuel does have a promotion going on this week for new customers. You can get a no-sweat first bet of up to $500. When you open up a new account with FanDuel, you can make your first bet all the way up to $500. If it wins, you made a great score, but if not, you get that money back into your account to keep on playing. So find out more about that at FanDuel or on their app. Also, if you're handicapping these Oaks and Kentucky Derby cars, or if you haven't started yet, make sure to check out our Kentucky Derby packages at DRF.com. You can save up to 39% of the value of everything included in these packages that include betting strategies, the player's guide, clock reports. Find out more at shop.drf.com. Well, Mike, a lot of large fields in the stakes races on this Saturday card at Churchill Downs, and that is also true of this 7th, the Twin Spires Turf Sprint. 12 runners entered here, and it feels like a fairly wide open race, though I imagine that the top two finishers from the Shakertown at Keeneland are going to be the two favorites.
Seems like it. We'll see how they wind up betting it. Those 1-2 finishers from the Shakertown, the 7 and the 8 here. I mean, you know, they're sort of horses that I think you could project some more improvement still, particularly from the 7, Think Big. So you either go that direction, David, or maybe you want to go to one of the old back class horses in it. There's a lot of back class in this race.
There really is. There are plenty of horses that have been on this turf sprint scene for a while. Horses like No Balls, who won the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint a couple of years ago. Arrest Me Red, who feels like he's 100 years old at this point. He's been competing in these races for a long time. Let's take a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector to see where some of those horses with early speed could be placed in the early stages of this race. And Mike, when I was looking at this, one thing that struck me was the lack of that fast pace flag that we're so accustomed to seeing in large fields like this. And it sort of made me go through and see who really needs to be forward to have their best chance. That's obviously true of the number 1 Copala, but as for all of the others that are shown in behind him, a lot is going to depend on the break and how aggressive the jockeys are.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought it was a little tough to figure out. First of all, it's not tough to figure out for the 1 because Copala is a really fast horse. He's a really good gate horse, and he's sort of one-way speed to me. I felt like he was going to be on the lead in here. You know, as far as who goes after him, I thought that was, a little bit tougher to decipher for me anyway. Could be No Balls for sure. The 4 one-timer, speaking of horses who feel like they're a million years old, I mean, this horse, he's got a top race that makes him tough. He's got speed too. You don't always see it from him, but he could be fast in this race. I don't know, man. The pace I thought was pretty tough to decipher.
Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1 Copala, that horse that was shown leading on the pace projector. And as Mike mentioned, he is a great gate horse. He often breaks in front and tries to take these fields as far as he can. Mike, 5 furlongs seems like it's the very best distance for him. He's had a lot of success going that flat 5 furlongs, especially at Gulfstream Park recently. It always seems like that extra 16th of a mile at the 5.5 can prove problematic for this horse, especially if he's forced to go a little bit too quickly on the front end. So I think that's the major question for him. But if he runs his race, he's going to take some catching in here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do feel like the extra half furlong probably really works against him, especially at this level of a race. I would also think it's at least worth pointing out, I don't know what the weather is actually going to be like, but every time he has to run on less than firm turf, it doesn't seem like you get his best performance that way either. So there are certainly question marks here. I still think he's a really dangerous horse in this race.
Yeah, there's not a ton of rain predicted in terms of volume, but it is predicted to be off and on right on through early Saturday afternoon. So we'll see how much does ultimately fall. The number 2, Ambivalent, will be going second off the claim for trainer Mike Maker, and he did really improve. First time off the claim for that barn last time in mid-March at Fairgrounds when he won a high-level optional claiming race. Did it well, got a career-best 97 buyer in the process, but Mike, he now is stepping up against a much tougher field, and going back through his prior form for the previous trainer, I never really viewed him as a horse that would compete at this level.
I agree. Those races don't make him good enough. He has, he ran against Think Big 2 starts back, and he was just no match for that horse. I don't know about you, David. When I watched his first start off the claim for Maker, I wasn't blown away by it. I see that it got a really strong figure there, but I'm finding it pretty tough to buy into that number, and I'm just gonna, he's gonna have to prove it to me in a race like this.
The number 3, No Balls, is one of those horses with plenty of back class. Like I said earlier, he was the upset winner of the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint back in 2023. Also the upset winner of this race 2 years ago when he wired the field at 38-1. Now, he hasn't won so consistently since then, and he is a horse that did a lot of winning early in his career. But Mike, he can be a bit of an all-or-nothing type. I mean, you could see that in his career box. 11 for 24, 4 seconds and 0 thirds. I mean, he's just a horse that when he shows up, he typically puts in a winning effort and really fights hard for it. And it seems like he's at least been cycling back up to maybe a better performance recently. He had some minor trouble too back in that Gulfstream Park Turf Sprint. And last time out, dueled Arrest Me Red all the way to the wire, got a bit tired at the end, but maybe that race will set him up for better here.
Yeah, I left him open in this race. I can't say that I fully trust him anymore. He's obviously got a good race, though, that makes him tough. I also just really appreciate how tactical he is, because he does have speed, but he's fine if you have to sort of rate him and sort of sit behind horses. That really works for him as well. You mentioned the race 2 starts back. I mean, if you go back and watch that replay, first of all, Copala, I thought, went a wicked pace in that race. And then, I mean, it was just a cavalry charge behind him. Everybody was making up ground on him late, and No Balls was one of those horses. He just, couldn't quite get there. And I thought he ran fine in there, and I thought he ran fine last time.
Yeah, and I think key for him is he doesn't have the same early speed or the same gate speed that he possessed earlier in his career, but maybe if they don't go so quickly up front, it's going to allow him to get better forward position in here. I think you could say the same thing about the number 4 one-timer, his Larry Ravelli trained stablemate. This horse is another one that showed a ton of early speed early in his career, and it seems like, especially recently, Mike, he's just lost it. He hasn't been able to get out of the gate as fast. He drops further back than you ever expected him to be in some of these recent starts, and he hasn't quite achieved the same results. This is a horse that at one time did have plenty of talent. I just wonder if he's still at that apex of his form at this point in his career.
Yeah, right. I also ultimately decided I don't think that he is. And your point's well taken about him just seeming to lose the early speed he used to have. That's often a really bad sign for horses like this as they get older. It just sort of made me want to shy away from this horse in this spot.
The number 5, Arrest Me Red, another horse that's been near the top of this division for a long time. He's tried this race a couple of times, hasn't really gotten ideal trips when he's done so, Mike, especially when he ran in this particular race last year. That was an insane trip. He was literally 6 wide around the turn that day, so I would take that 13th place finish with a grain of salt. And it seems like he's at least gotten back into winning form recently. He comes in off 3 consecutive victories, albeit against weaker company than this, but he did beat No Balls last time over the synthetic course at Turfway Park. And something that we know Wesley Ward does really well is making this synthetic to turf move. I found this DRF formulator fact for him. It's a pretty large sample, 57 runners. He's winning with a third of them with an ROI that's above $3 going from synthetic to turf sprints. So we'll see if Arrest Me Red can produce a better effort here.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really good move for Ward. They actually tried it last year as well, going synthetic to turf in this race when he pulled that really tough trip. He's also won this race in the past. You mentioned he's been around forever. I think he won this race 3 or 4 years ago. So he's just been good for a long time. Seems like he can still get it done. He's in really good form right now. He's got speed, but he doesn't need to lead. All these things just sort of, make it kind of easy to make a case for him. I could use him, but I can't say that I love him in this race.
The number 6, Run Carson, is a horse that got really good in the second half of last season. Once they really kind of focused on turf sprinting with him and stepped him up in class a little bit, he was up to the challenge. He was second at a big price in the Mahoney, and he continued to produce some big efforts through the end of last year, wiring a field in the Carl Place at Aqueduct, and then running a really big race over this Churchill Downs turf course, going today's 5.5 furlong distance. A repeat of that kind of performance would put him in the winner's circle here. The problem is, Mike, he came off the layoff last last time in the Shakertown. Took a lot of money to get bet down to 7-2, and he was just a little bit dull. And I think one of his biggest weaknesses kind of reared its head in that race, his breaks from the gate. He can sometimes break a step slowly. He did last time. It put him out of position every step of the way. But maybe if he can break a little sharper here, he can get into a better stalking trip, because I think this horse does have the talent to beat a field like this.
I agree with you. And I ultimately decided, I saw all the same things you saw in the Shakertown off the layoff last time. And I just ultimately decided that maybe he just needed it. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for that, because he was just getting so good at the end of last year and it's, again, this is one of those races that you don't really want the old timers who have been doing this forever. You want horses like this in this race who could still take another step forward.
And I didn't send in this trainer stat for our producers to make a graphic out of it, but Kelsey Danner does have great stats, second off a layoff, particularly in sprint races. She's winning at a 30% clip with a $2.62 ROI over the past 5 years. And Run Carson does have that eye-catching 33-3 workout at Turfway coming in here. So maybe he is sharpened second off the layoff. The number 7, Think Big, was the winner of the Shakertown that we've referenced a few times. Let's take a look at the stretch run of that race. And Mike, this horse got the job done, paying $22, despite the fact that he had done everything right in both of his prior turf sprints coming in here. He made it 3 for 3 on the turf in this race, stepping up against a much tougher field. And it just feels like this Godolphin runner has really found his niche on the grass.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's pretty clear on the page here that he's at his best sprinting on the turf here. And I just thought, David, he won this race that we're watching right now. He won it fair and square. He got a good trip in this race, but, just sort of always sat there. It always looked like he was going to run through the stretch. And then he did, and he closed that race down. The horse that was second to him was back in here, Rogue Lightning. I thought had a perfect trip in that race and had no excuse. And also, I know the first 2 turf sprints, I know they're, allowance races against weaker competition. He looked even better to me in those races than he did in the Shakertown.
Yeah, this is a horse that I actually liked a lot last time. 10-1 that day. He's going to be a much shorter price here, but I think there is a strong argument that he is the one to beat in this race. The number 8, Rogue Lightning, was the other horse highlighted in that replay that we just took a look at, getting run down by Think Big in the late stages. That was his first North American start. This is a horse that has raced all over the globe recently. He spent a lot of time in Great Britain and France during the past couple of seasons, but he went over to Qatar, to back for these connections who are based in the Middle East, and then he came over to Keeneland last time to try American Company, and he ran a really big race despite all of that travel. And Mike, if he can move forward, second time in the United States, he's a major player here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can move forward. I don't really project as much improvement for him as I do for some of the other horses, so that bothered me a little bit. I thought his European form, I just thought it was okay. I didn't think it was great. And when he won the race, over in Qatar, off the layup there in February, that was a trip I thought that really worked out for him, and he got the job done. I have no idea what kind of field he was beating there. Ultimately, I'm just not blown away by him. I don't think he's, based on the Shakertown in particular, I don't think he's any better than Think Big. And I see him as the morning line favorite here, and I want other horses.
And he does have to avoid getting caught wide, because he showed a lot of tactical speed last time. And I think there are a few inside of him that, if they break well, could be going after Copala on the front end. You don't want to see this horse get caught 3 or 4 wide around that tight turn. The number 9 is Boss Sully, a horse who's shipping in from Southern California. And Mike, he's just going to get a really big class test here, because he's done his best running against Optional Claiming Company, and he is in pretty good form right now. But he's another one with tactical speed, breaking outside of a lot of other speed. So he's got to work out a trip.
Yeah, there's a lot working against this horse. I mean, he's supposed to be a pretty big price in here. So I didn't really want to, knock him too much in here. I just don't see the race that he's run so far anyway that makes me want to bet him against this field.
The number 10, Unconquerable Keen, is another California shipper coming in here for trainer Phil D'Amato. He beat Boss Sully 3 back in his past performances. Didn't run so well down the hill 2 back when he got some trouble. And then last time, Mike, closed decently. That was a race that didn't feature a whole lot of pace for 5 furlongs. He's a real specialist over that Del Mar 5 furlong course. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can transfer some of that form to Churchill Downs. Yeah,
my take on this horse is that there's a lot. They've tried a lot of different distances with him. He's best at 5 and 5.5. I think he really wants to go short. And when they go 6, even down the hill 6.5, they've even tried to stretch him out. He's not nearly as good in those races. He's got figures, more than one, by the way. They give him a real chance against this field. He has speed, but he does not need the lead either. I don't know. I'm not going to sit there and pretend I love him in here, David, but he's 30-1 on the morning line, and I'm definitely using this horse.
The number 11, Eamon, was the horse who closed for third in the Shakertown last time, behind Think Big and Rogue Lightning. Mike, you just know what this horse's trip is going to be. He doesn't have a whole lot of early speed for these types. He's going to drop back, probably to last early, hope they go quickly up front, and try to pick up the pieces at the end. I have trouble seeing him pass everybody to actually win the race at this level, but he might be the kind of horse you want to throw in underneath and trifectas and supers.
I look at him the same way that you do. Having Copala in this field obviously helps his chances because it almost ensures that this pace will be fast, and maybe that'll give this horse his best opportunity to get a piece of this.
The number 12, Mischief Rogue, is going to be a big price in this race, maybe the biggest price of all. Just hasn't really done a whole lot since he was claimed by this barn going back to the end of last fall. He did compete on synthetic a couple of times, switched to turf in the last race in the Shakertown. He did get a pretty wide trip, Mike, but just never really looked like he was classing up with those horses.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of nowhere in that race. And then so if you want to give him a pass for the wide trip, then you have to go back and find, one of his other races that you feel like that make him look unlucky in that race. And I couldn't find it.
Well, let's remind everybody of that promotion going on with FanDuel. If you open up a new account this week, you get that no sweat first bet of up to $500. Like I said earlier, if you make a winning bet, well, you got the money for winning the bet. But if you don't, you get the money back into your account. So either way, you get to keep playing when you open up that new account with FanDuel. Let's go to our picks for this race, Mike, the Twin Spires Turf Sprint. And you're going to go with the horse that I do believe is the one to beat, the number 7, Think Big, who's just been a revelation since getting on the turf.
Just really logical in here. Listen, you had him last time. That was probably the time to have him, but I still think he's going to be tough right back in this race. The other, I want to use a lot of that 10 that we were talking about. I chickened out at the end. I didn't put him on top in this race, but I definitely want to use him. And I got your top pick in there also. I think that horse is really dangerous.
Yeah, I don't totally trust the horse that I put on top because he's so dependent on the break, and sometimes the start can be a problem for him. But when he does break and gets his preferred trip, this horse has real talent, the number 6, Run Carson. And I feel like he's one that could drift up a little bit from that 6-1 morning line. I hope he would. So it's 6, 7, 3, 8 for me, and 7, 10, 3, 6 for Mike in the 7th race on Kentucky Derby Saturday at Churchill, the Twin Spires Turf Sprint. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.